I ain't the kind to wear a tie. Button up from 9 to 5. I tried that life but said goodbye. I'm not always polite, but I get the job done. Who says the world can never be fun? I'm simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Yeah. Yeah. Unprofessional.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Simply Unprofessional. I am your host, Webby. Joining me tonight, we have Devin.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Devin and I'm here. What's up?
So, Devin, we're going on week number 2 of me still having this cold.
We are. I feel like you've been sick forever, and I feel like it's not
Yeah,
good.
if it's not one thing, it's another, but this particular cold or flu has been going on for about a week and a half, 2 weeks now. Not liking it. It's not fun. So, yet again, we're going to do something that will allow you to do a little bit more of the talking for me. And this week we're going to talk about favorite vamp characters from Vampire the Masquerade. It's a tabletop RPG. Much like Dungeons and Dragons, it can be centered in all various different types of timelines and time frames and worlds and whatever. The ones that we play take place in this world. The original, The Brood, took place in the medieval Dark Ages, and we currently are recording some episodes that take place more modern day.
Yep. But we've touched along the way. We've touched into colonial times.
Yeah, with Edquist's game.
Yep. Colonial times. We've touched into the Victorian era. That was kind of when the character I'm talking about today kind of started out. Was the Victorian era, right around there somewhere.
Yeah. So, out of all your vamp characters, like you did just say, you did mention Azariah, but
I did just mention Azariah.
out of all your vamp characters, I mean, how many different vamp characters do you have currently?
Active that I've played in games. I've played in games. I have 6. I think so. I have count them off. I got Azariah. I got Gerard. I got Azariah, Gerard. I have it may not be 6. Azariah, Gerard. There's Roy. There's. Am I missing anybody else?
Kyrian.
4. Kyrian. There's Kyrian. I forgot. Yep. I named him in my head and then I forgot about him. Kyrian. And then there's 5. Kyrian, and then there's the doctor I used for the one shot. So there's 5. I have 5 characters that I played in Vamp.
And of those, which ones do you? I guess which one's your favorite, or which one?
Honestly, out of the only one, out of all the ones that are surprisingly my favorite, I would say it's probably a solid, fun tie. In terms of characters, it's a hard question. In terms of characters that are fun for me to play the most of, I think, is probably Azariah. He's the most fun for me because I can be very off the cuff with Azariah. Just with how his personality is as a character, he's very off the cuff for me. Just like harken back to the mage game with my mage character. For me, he came natural. He was very off the cuff. I didn't have to think about anything.
Yeah.
Too much. Like the knee jerk reaction. Like I kind of knew exactly where he was. So knee jerk reaction, I could just knee jerk reaction through a lot of scenarios, and it would fit the character, so it works. Kind of in the same sense of Azariah, I can knee jerk reaction a lot of things, or I know the kind of the mindset he's in pretty much at any given time. It allows me to just kind of be like, well, this is what he would do. Boom, there we go. So that. However, fun in a challenging way is Roy. Roy for me is the funnest character to play in a challenging way because he challenges me as a role player, challenges me as just part of it because he's such an intellectual character that I'm forced to kind of stop and think, well, what would he do? You know?
Right.
And there's situations where I don't have the time to do that. Like, at the table where it's a quick decision. I don't have the time to sit there and process it. So I have to kind of mentally very quickly take all the prior experiences and formulate a decision on the spot and live with it. Which occasionally sometimes ends up with things happening out of like that wouldn't happen necessarily. They don't line up with the character. But overall, it's 100%. Like, for me, it's more engaging, put it that way. It's more engaging. So that makes it more fun.
Okay. Now, so these are, you said this is roughly a tie, and for two different reasons. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about Azariah?
Azariah is, he's a psychopath. I mean, that's I hate to be like that's a defining characteristic, but that's kind of his defining characteristic.
Now for the listeners, you play Azariah in Edquist's game.
Yes.
Edquist DMs a game for us, and I also actually get to play in this game. Now, I don't. For all the listeners out there, I don't get to play in many of these games because I'm usually the one DMing most of these things.
In fact, all you listeners out there, you know exactly what game this is. This is the game me and Webby complained about, and we're like, we never get to play in a game together. So if anybody wants to DM a game, let us know.
Yeah.
Rob stepped up and DM'd a game for us.
Yeah.
So
Edquist stepped up, and we kind of told him what we wanted in terms of, I guess, atmosphere or what's the word I'm looking for? We wanted it to be a little bit more dark and maybe a little gritty, as opposed to upbeat, like most of our games have a tendency to be. So yeah, I play Abel, which we decided that our characters were going to be brothers. So why don't you go ahead and tell them a little bit more about Azariah and the insanity that we did with their backstory. That was a fun time. I would do that again.
That was me, you, and Clay on a call for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Rolling dice and coming up with names. I remember it was like 3 a.m. and we're sitting there. I'm just like, I don't fucking care. Rachel, I don't care. It's a name. Put it on paper. So, Azariah, we took inspiration for our characters from the originals. And as in the original vampires, we took our inspiration kind of from there. So the best way to describe kind of Azariah would be the mix of like a Klaus Cole kind of scenario. So he's always looking for a fight. He's very sadistic. And is kind of, I hint to the point, because I mean, and this is something that happens in Vamp all the time, like storyline wise, and not all the time, but storyline wise, where as Vamps get older and they age, and they do more egregious things, they lose their humanity, and they stop seeing humans as humans. They're just a thing to them. They're food, or a means to an end.
Yep.
Tools, exactly. Tools or a means to it. And that's kind of the point where Azariah is at. He's kind of very much at that point. But that doesn't help it's not helped by the fact that he's also like I said, he is very psychopathic, he's very narcissistic, he's very I mean he's 100% just kind of a person who's just like, I care about me, and I care about me and maybe some other things, but those things I only care about because they benefit me. I mean, in some senses, that's even his brother. Like, he's very protective of his brother, played by Webby. His brother is older, and really, he'll listen to his brother, and he will, like, not without resistance. I mean, there have been times where they've kind of gone at it, not physically, but there are times where they've kind of snapped at each other, and those are the funnest times, I think, when me and Webby get to role play, kind of having one of our married couple fights in character.
Yep.
So I mean, so Webby can keep him in check. I would say the last thing, kind of his last shred of humanity, is Abel. And the thing is about that, and it's kind of funny because Abel doesn't really have humanity either, but he's much more calculated and much more cordial than I ever could be.
Right. Like you had just told the listeners that for those of you who have seen the originals, these particular characters, if you haven't seen the originals, first off, go watch the originals. It's a fantastic show.
Yep.
Um,
Currently on Netflix. I don't know if it's leaving, but I do know the Vampire Diaries is leaving Netflix.
yeah. And they did show up there first. Um, but you mentioned that your character, Azariah, is a mixture between Cole and Klaus, where my character is a mixture more of the Elijah and Klaus dynamic. Um, I try to be more calculating, but I do have my tempered side.
Snake to the face.
Snake to the face. Yep.
That's it. That's the title of this episode.
Oh, Jesus. Um,
Like Donnie listens.
but now we did have when we made our characters and we talked about it. Now explain what you mean by my character kind of keeps your character in check.
Well, there's very few things. There are very few things that kind of anchor me down. That basically just keep me from running rampant on the countryside and just murdering everything and anything that gets in my way.
Which we have written in our backstories. We have both done numerous occasions,
but
both separately and together.
But you always pull me back one way or another. Like, you know when to draw the line. I don't. You know when it's time to call it quits. You kind of know when it's time to draw the line, more so than me. And pretty much if you weren't around, I'm almost certain Azariah would get himself killed. He would get himself in over his head. But the thing about it is that I honestly think, and it's something I try to play subconsciously more so in the character, is that subconsciously, I think Azariah knows this subconsciously. So while he does care for his brother, he also takes care to make sure that they're always together, that he keeps you alive, because he knows without you, he's probably dead shortly after anyway, or he's going to be worse off anyway. Because that's kind of where it would be. So I kind of subconsciously play him because you're like that string that can pull me back. You're effectively the leash to the you're a leash to the wild dog. You may unleash me at times and do what you do, but you still hold a leash to pull me back in if need be.
And if the leash doesn't work, the punishment does.
Yes.
And that's very much where I draw from the Klaus-esque side of my character, and I will just stake you and leave you somewhere for a predetermined amount of time.
Yeah, but there's very few things that's kind of off for Azariah. Like there's not too much is off limits for him. He doesn't really have limits in terms of like what he will do to get what he wants. He doesn't really have limits. I've tortured in the show as Azariah. I've killed children in the show as Azariah.
It's a true statement.
Like
You've run off other PCs. Yes. Although I sadly am the only one who could claim that I've killed a fellow PC. You have attempted it. You have attempted it.
Not for lack of trying. If people would just stop bringing in outside stuff like demons and chaos magic, maybe I could get more done.
Yeah.
In all my games. I'm just saying.
Abel and Azariah are definitely fun, and I am happy with the fact that Edquist allows us to play these powerful vampires and to be, on the darker side of things that we wanted to be. Because the ongoing joke has always been with everybody, I'm always the DM of all these games. I DM several D&D games. I DM several, Vamp games, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm very rarely am I an actual player. And then when I am, very rarely am I ever a player with Devin. That was where all of this kind of stemmed from. Was me and Devin? We rarely get to play any games together. Um, but people who really know me know that I have a tendency to be on the darker side of a character. Um, I like doing that. The torture, the dismembering of people, um, brutal killing, stuff like that. I am a murder hobo at heart, but
I mean, I think we share that. I think I've said numerous times in this show, when I play in a game, I prefer the dark and the gritty. That's just how I am.
yeah,
I love dark gritty. Even for my own character's mortality, like put me in a game where like, oh hey, if you screw this up, you die.
right.
Like I don't want, like, if I'm playing D&D, don't put me in a dungeon with like traps that'll like disable me or hurt me. Like put me in a trap like, oh yeah, you got like 3 minutes to figure this out or you're dead. Like, okay, that's going to get my brain moving. That's going to put me in crunch time. Like, let's do this.
Yeah.
And for me, that is kind of where I love shining in
Hold on,
dark games. I'm all over the board.
Let me write that down as a note.
Go for it.
D&D
Please.
timed trap.
Time trap that like kills you. Fucking, the Saw the reverse bear trap in Saw. Like we wake up in a cell.
Okay, note taken.
I'm down.
All right, so tell us a little bit more about Azariah.
I mean,
If you want to dip into their backstory, into his backstory bit.
Yeah, I can. So, let's talk about what me and you did for Azariah, because yeah. So, Azariah specifically, let's talk about weapons real quick. Azariah signature weapon is he uses a pair of straight razors, that he carries around with him, very old-fashioned, bone-handled, straight razors. You carry around, I think your signature weapon is your stake, probably, I would assume, right?
I've never actually used it.
You've never used it, but
well,
I mean,
I use it on you. I don't have a signature weapon. That's my signature weapon.
Yeah,
I use my bare hands and my teeth. I'm a very hands-on
killer
murder hobo.
I like it. So yeah. So what we did was we made a family tree because we could. And we went all the way back.
Now, let's explain this. Edquist's game is in the late 1700s. Now, we established that me and Devin's characters were roughly 500 years old. So we actually made, and this is all due to my character, is why we went through this.
1775, by the way.
Okay, so the game is 1775, and we're roughly 500 years old. So we actually made a family tree for each generation for that 500 years.
Yes.
We're insane, Devin.
We are. It took us 5 hours. It was a 5-hour endeavor of me, you, and Clay sitting on Skype. And Clay was really overly involved. He was listening to us suffer through this.
Yeah. Hey, but some of the family tree came out like we gave them backstory. It was fun.
Oh no, we absolutely did. It was really funny. Because basically after a while, we just started randomly determining how long they lived or how long they died, right? And it was randomly. So then you have like this really weird outlier, like, oh well, this chick's husband died like the day after she married him. Well, all right. What happened with that story? And then it's like, you didn't approve, so you killed him on their wedding night.
Yeah.
And you ate him and carried him away or something. Like, it's like, that's how it was. It was kind of what it is. So we started all the way back with their parents at the year 1250 is when you were born. So, parents were 1224 and 1227. Started all the way back there and just worked it out.
Now, mind you, this entire family tree is branched off of our sister. essentially, because myself and Devin, quote unquote, died when we turned into vampires. But we had given our sister to a neighboring farm to take care of her.
Yes.
And my character's shtick is I constantly kept an eye on her well-being and essentially the well-being
he has
of
a tapestry.
Essentially the well-being of each generation in our family throughout the years. On birthdays, I would leave presents at their door.
It's like tattooed on your back somewhere. And see, and this is something like Azariah had a meltdown in one of the episodes where everybody's worried. Somebody who died? Piper died. One of our relatives that was traveling with us died, and everybody was like sad and upset about it. And Azariah was just like, "Why? Like, so what? She's dead. Okay, like, she's still here. She's hanging around as a spirit, but I mean, she's dead. What does it matter? Like, why is everybody so upset about this? Like, I don't get it."
Right.
And he had a meltdown, and like truly, he's kind of lost that connection. Like for instance, I can say this without a doubt: if Abel died, he would keep tabs on the family, but
only because Abel did it.
Only because Abel would want him to, but that would be it. Like it wouldn't be like birthday presents and shit like that left. He would keep tabs on the family, and if somebody was messing with their family, he would just kill them and then leave. Like, but it wouldn't be like a situation where like he's giving them money and keeping them alive. He wouldn't really care. He would just make sure they don't die. Like, as a basic like parental rights. Like, all right, don't die. Like, that's your job.
Don't worry. If anything ever happens to Abel, Azariah's off the hook because he's been essentially grooming Aiden for that endeavor.
There you go. See, Azariah would just do something like boring. He would just like ghoul like the entire town that they live in, and be like, watch over them.
It'd be like the Truman Show for a family.
Yep.
It's like, don't tell them what you are, but watch over them.
Or like the Stepford, like
that's really fucked up. That's really fucked up, and I kind of want to do that now. Like in game, I just want me and you to go around and ghoul an entire town of people.
Like the Stepford town, like that's how we retire. Like this is how I imagine Azariah. Like if Abel dies, like Azariah goes this like brutal murdering spree, and then retires like Cain in Supernatural, like this small quaint farm somewhere. And it's like he's in the middle of a small town. Like these hunters show up at his house, and then they start threatening him. And the next thing you know, is just the entire town mobs around with like pitchforks and shit. Just like, yeah. Like, that kind of thing.
You boys didn't see that coming, did you?
Like that's exactly how I picture that happening now. Like, but yeah, I mean that's pretty much what it is. Like he's just yeah. I kind of want to do that, or like just present the entire town into oblivion.
No, yeah, we're definitely gonna ghoul an entire town now. Just so you know.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I'm totally down with that. Just have it like have it like the Stepford town.
I mean, you figure we have 30 blood between us. 60, technically 60 blood between us.
I mean, to be fair, we probably at this day and age. Hold on, see population of.
I mean, it's going to be way more than that. Even small villages and stuff. I mean, they weren't that small.
So in 1775, the entire population of the 13 colonies was only 2.4 million people. So it would take time.
2.4 million?
Yeah, it's in 1775, the population of the 13 colonies combined was only 2.4 million.
$2.4 million. Say divided by 30. 80,000 days. That's all it's going to take. Ish.
So 80,000, divide that by 365.
If I'm doing my math right here, it's going to be 219 years.
19 years.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing for us.
By the 1980s, we'll have an entire town fucking ghouled. It's fine.
We had the entire.
Well, yeah, the whole 13 colonies ghouled.
There we go.
And then after a while, the ghouls will just start having ghoul children. We won't have to worry about them anymore.
Exactly.
So,
I like this idea. Let's see, Delaware was under 1 million people. So there you go.
well, hey, we're in Rhode Island currently.
So Delaware was under 1 million people. Wait, that's now. Hold on.
Where was Rhode Island at?
Rhode Island.
Back then.
Island population. I can't type apparently. Population
1775.
I know what I'm doing. Overall, there were estimated only 2.5 million people living in the original 13 colonies in 1776. All of that number should be taken with a grain of salt, so the first census did not occur until 1790. As of early 2017, these population had 200 million. So 130% increase. That's not what I care about. I want estimated population of the American colonies. So 1775. I want to say 1780.
Sure.
New Hampshire, 87,000.
87,000. I mean, that's not the state I asked for, but that's fine. We can go with my home state.
You said Rhode Island. Right?
That's only because me and you are currently
Rhode
in
Island,
the game.
Rhode Island's 53. So there you go.
All right, so 53,000 divided by. Actually, we'll double that up, say 60, because it's going to be both of us doing it. 883 divided by 365.
It's like
2.5 years. 2.5 years. We got this. We're going to just ghoul the state of Rhode Island.
Theoretically, if we pull in Austin too, we can even do it faster.
That's true. And it'll all be in the family. Fuck them.
It's all in the family. Yeah.
And then we'll just have our mortal families moved to Rhode Island against their will because no one wants to live in Rhode Island.
We will just own Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I mean, Rhode Island is better than Wichita.
I mean, you don't get nothing but crickets out in Wichita. I mean, we could just do New Hampshire. We'll just go do New Hampshire. New Hampshire's got it all. Right. We got maple syrup up here, too. And fresh seafood.
Well, Vermont, if you want to know.
No, but
Vermont's doesn't have 47.
Vermont doesn't have a seacoast, though.
True. We need that sweet import-export business.
That's right. So, anyway, we got off on a tangent on that one.
All right. So, here, if you want to ghoul, let's go. I don't have the... Wait. Where are we at right now?
Well, I think we're in Rhode Island currently.
Okay. So, if you want to ghoul only the Negro population of Rhode Island, I'm only saying Negro because that's what the website is saying. Only 2,771.
You caught me off guard with that one, Devin. Jesus.
Only 2,671.
I mean, why would we? We
can be.
I can't even finish the sentence.
We can be the OG slave masters.
Yeah, but why would we be slave masters? I don't.
Because we gotta catch them all. I don't know.
I got ginger ale up my nose. You suck so bad, Devin. There's so many things wrong with what you just said. First off,
you're not wrong.
Okay, first, if we gotta catch them all, wouldn't we want to include all the other races as well?
I mean, you're not wrong.
Or are we just playing like Malcolm X Pokemon? Or
you can play Malcolm X Pokemon. And then
Jesus!
You can also buy a basketball team later. It'll all work out.
Okay, so we're trading in Rhode Island for Harlem.
Yes,
I guess. I'm dying. I got ginger up my nose. That was weird.
Oh man. For all you new listeners that may happen to randomly come across this episode and be like, wow, this show's super racist.
Nah, man, it's okay. Devin's a black guy.
I'm black. But it doesn't necessarily make it okay. It just makes it slightly better.
Man.
Oh, man. That was great. That's a great
I mean, it's better that you say that shit than me. I'm a fat white hillbilly, so... Man. I'm more of a redneck than a hillbilly anyway.
Nah, you're my favorite redneck.
Oh, Devin, thank you.
No problem.
All right.
I vouch for you.
Let's talk a little bit more about Azariah, then we'll dive into Roy.
into the strangeness that is Roy, I'm down.
So we did have this. We made this in depth family tree. We even went down so far as like the name changed, and when one of the daughters got married, she kept the what would that be, the matriarchal name or whatever. She kept her maiden name as opposed to
Yeah,
taking her husband's name because
we liked it better.
her husband was like a little bitch.
Yeah, her husband was so.
That was
It
that was
changed
down
the
that
way.
was actually down to Fears, right? That's where the Fears family
Yep,
came in.
yep. So to break it down, it started off at Schofield. We're Schofields. We're the last of the Schofield line.
Yeah,
We're the last of the original Schofield line.
because our sister got
Our
married off.
sister married Caleb Thomas, and then it was Thomas's for a long time until actually not a long time. It was Thomas's for about another, not even 100 years, like 50 years. And then it was Radcliffe. Then it went Caitlin Radcliffe, and then the Radcliffe line died off on one side, completely. It was Barrett Radcliffe in 1380. What was some bad shit that happened in 1380? I don't know. Whatever. Something happened to him in 1380. He was 9. So, GG Barrett, GG. Emily Radcliffe, however, lived on. She married John McManus, which is strange because we didn't change their name. Whatever. Emily Radcliffe married John McManus, and then somehow their kids are Jacobs. Oh, that's how. It was Chelsea McManus, I'm sure, and then she married Talon Jacobs, and then they became Jacobs. They were Jacobs for a while, and then the Jacobs line split off, and they never had children. 2 of them never had children, and then the McCartys, Freya, she married Lawrence McCarty, and then it was McCarty line for a very, very while until we got down to Kate Fears. And Kate Fears was like, no, fuck that.
Yeah, because wasn't she the prostitute?
Yeah, she was. She was like the prostitute that like fought.
The strong, independent woman who fucking
she
married
was the
some
strong,
dude.
independent. There was at some point in time in like she's in history books at some point in time in like the late 1990s. There's gonna be like a period piece about her somewhere. Yeah. So she kept her name. She married Marcus McCarty, and then it was after that she kept her name. So then all the kids had Fears. So it was Maya Fears and Roger Fears, and Roger was not important apparently because we didn't give him a fucking birth date or death date.
Oh, fuck Roger.
Roger was not important, and they had Jameson. We liked alcoholic names apparently.
Yeah.
There's Jameson, and then that went down the line somewhere. I can't keep reading because I'm trying to figure this out. Anyway, it ended up with our only currently, not our only current, our current surviving peeps right now are, GG Piper, you were alive. Is Annie Fears, August Fears, Augustus. Annie, Augustus, and Riley are the only ones who are alive. Riley was just born. Riley's a newborn.
Yep.
So Annie and Augustus with their newborn baby Riley.
And technically, Aiden was on there. We didn't add him. He came in later.
Yeah, he was.
But Austin plays Aiden Fears.
He was a happy little accident, as they'd say.
Yeah. Who is our? That would be what like our.
Oh no!
Great,
you know what?
great.
He
Grand
was in
nephew.
the family tree when he got turned. You scratched him off for his own safety. So if he ever had to disassociate himself from us, he could. Sure. Let's go with that.
No, I would have just said that that's when he died. But in any case, that would make Austin our great, however many great grandnephew, I believe.
Yeah, who's older than us
in appearance,
physically?
Yeah.
He's our.
Which will bring me to an interesting point when we talk about Roy's character too. But So yeah, that's essentially the family tree and a very, very brief history on Azariah. We do have the nicknames, the Devils of Dublin, because of
We
our
do.
stint, and we are actually um, banned from Ireland. We're not allowed to go back. We have a kill on sight order on us if we ever return to Ireland.
Take the
Um,
fun out of everything.
yeah, which has given us quite a reputation amongst all the Canaanites and other vampires.
Yep. Which we don't milk at all.
No, not at all.
No. No.
Uh,
No.
just because I walk up to the prince of the new Americas and I slap him in the face and this that and the other thing and treat his property like trash. Hey, I'm just trying to teach them a lesson. That's all. Anyway, I love you, Rob. I love your game, and I love these characters. That's all I'll say.
Hashtag no chaos 2020.
Oh,
That is now the official goal of every character I own in every game is just to eradicate the world of chaos magic.
well, good luck. At least in the D&D game.
I mean,
You have very little, if not no, chaos magic in the Roy game.
you're right. Very little, which I'm keeping that way.
Yeah,
We're keeping that way.
For
We're
now.
keeping that way
for now.
forever.
Speaking of Roy, why don't you tell us a little bit about Roy?
Roy. Well, I'm going to read Roy off of my 16-page.
What's Roy's last name?
Roy's last name is what is it? I changed it. That's what I want to know. I didn't. It wasn't a recent change. I just changed what it was before. Allard. There we go.
Allard.
Well, yeah, Allard. It's that's okay. That's not his real. It's his real last name, but intentionally he mispronounces it in the more modern way and misspells it for reasons. If you look at his last name and when he had it, it was an old. I can tell you what was the. Was it Germanic? I don't think it was Germanic. Maybe it was Germanic. Old English. There we go. Super Old English. Surname. Norfolk, Lincolnshire. Mainland Europe. Include. There we go. So he spells it Allard, but he says Allard, but his actual name is it's Adlard, Adlard.
Adlard. Okay.
Yeah, but he pronounced it and spells it in everything legally as Allard, Allard.
All right.
So that's just to avoid any people who may want to use my name for bad reasons. I'm watching you.
I'm watching you.
I'm watching you.
I'm watching you sign that check over there.
Yeah.
Better only be putting Allard. Keep that other D out of there, you prick.
Hey. I'm aware of shenanigans people can pull with your real last name. You're not my real dad. You're not my real dad.
You're not my real dad.
Anyway, so Roy was born in the 1700s.
Oh, when in the 1700s?
Roy was born. I actually wrote this down specifically. I can tell you specifically right now. He was born in Normandy, but I can also tell you, which makes him French. Which everybody laughs. I think that's the worst thing about Roy. I laugh when people say that, and I want to punch him in the face. But whatever. They're like, oh, that's the worst thing about Roy. He's French. By modern standards, I guess. Roy was born. He was born October 31st under a blood moon. He's a Scorpio. Good sir. For all you out there, he's a Scorpio. So
Yeah,
there you
I'm
go.
looking for a year, Devin. I'm not looking to see his. Okay.
Oh, he was born in
profile.
legitimately 1700. 1700. That's what I said.
Oh, I thought you
born-
said the 1700s. So
I did, and he said year. I said, 1700. Yeah, he was born
Oh.
in 1700.
So okay, in 1700. So
Yep, on 1700 October 31st, under a blood moon. Technically, when we started the game, he was 318 years old. Now he's 300 and no, he's still 318 because that's not covered yet.
so we'll get into a little bit of his mortal history here in a minute. But when was he turned?
He was turned. He was ghouled in 1722. He was actually turned in 1902.
So he was a ghoul at the same time that Azariah and Abel are now tramping around in Rhode Island.
True statement. True statement.
Keep that in mind, Edquist.
True statement.
Anyway, continue. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Roy's mortal history, if you care to?
Roy's mortal history. That's an interesting place. That's interesting. Roy's mortal history. Roy was born to a prostitute. In 1700, was born into a prostitute who
was her name Fears?
No, he was.
Okay.
He was actually the illegitimate. He's actually the illegitimate son of a king. Well, of a person who became king, I should say, because it was the prince that got her pregnant, but he refused to own the name. He disowned Roy and called her crazy. But knowing that, she named him Roy because Roy is an Anglo-Norman English name. It derived from the Norman Roy, meaning king, which is why she named him Roy.
All right.
So that is actually what it is. Effectively, Roy grew up in a pretty shitty household. After that, I mean, like, it was just what it was. It was not a great place. Roy decided at a very young age to go leave and make a name for himself and take care of himself. He was better off on his own. So 1707, he was 7 years old. He packed his shit and left. He got tired of it.
See you, Bob. I'm going to play with my friends down the street. I ain't never coming back.
Yep. He went to the store to get apples and never came back.
Fucking Roy.
And then he met Patches the Music Man.
Oh, God, yeah. I forgot
Patches
all
the
about this
Music
guy.
Man. You forgot about Patches the Music Man?
I did, yeah.
Come on, Patches is a great guy. Patches was the best guy. What are you talking about?
Move it along here. Come on.
Aw, don't be like that.
Patches Music Man. How did he impact Roy's life?
Patches the Music Man was effectively Patches the Music Man was a traveling music man or a hobo, if you will. Why was he a traveling music man and a hobo? Because he was, in fact, originally he was a mage. An awakened mage, not a very particularly well-trained one, and he had visions, and he heard things in his head, and it eventually drove him crazy, and he burnt down his house and killed his family. While having one of those visions, so that shook him to a point where he kind of mentally snapped and was unstable, and just became a music man. Roy traveled with him for 10 years. During this time, it was Patches taught him kind of how to survive in the streets, taught him how to survive in the streets, taught him how to play music, and it was during this time Roy kind of realized that he also had latent magical abilities, and Patches was doing the best he could to try to teach him. In fact, they were on their way to Patches was on his way to take Roy to I don't want to say like a mage gathering, but kind of like a mage gathering. And he was going to effectively, like, you're 17, you should get proper training on what you are. You know, it's kind of too late for me. I only can teach you so much, kind of a deal. And they were in the process of going to go meet up. Roy was going to basically get handed off for that reasoning. During that time, that's when they were attacked. They were attacked by some stray Canaanites. Patches was killed in the engagement, and that's when Roy met Kyrian. And Kyrian took him in at that point. Saved him, took him in. He then he trained for 5 years because he grew up on the street. So Kyrian is eventually becomes Roy's sire. He's very refined, as he. Roy would later come to find out that Kyrion's very refined. He comes from a kind of a Cainite mob family, if you like, kind of sort of like they're not officially related. A lot of them aren't officially related, but they do have a leader, and they all kind of work as like a clan within a clan. And so kind of like a house that's kind of just like a house of misfits, if you will. So he's taken in under their care. He's, kind of has etiquette training and, he's schooled for 5 years.
Where was this at?
This is when Kyrian found it.
Right, but
and
where
is this
back in France or
no? Where was Marcus's castle? Rome. It wasn't in Romania. Where's Marcus's castle at?
That's what I was asking. Also, check your Discord real quick.
Yeah, I saw what you were saying. Let me see exactly what it says, but I glanced it. Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. Yeah, so I forgot exactly where it was. I wrote it down. I don't have the sheet in front of me. I think it's in England somewhere. He was taken to Marcus's castle, where they all were kind of the base of like what I was saying, where kind of this clan within a clan or mob family within, that kind of thing. He was taken there, and that's where he was trained by Walter, who was Kyrion's ghoul and traveling companion. He was trained by Walter, and that's where he met Marcus. Marcus was the head of the house. He was kind of a recluse in his old age. He was head of the house, and he wasn't Kyrion's sire, but he was Kyrion's pseudo sire and mentor, because Kyrion's sire moved on very early in Kyrion's career as a Cainite. It was around this time, and 5 years later, 1722, that's when Roy was ghouled. His training was considered complete. He was trained in combat, like I said, physically, mentally, socially, across the board. He was trained to kind of replace Walter, because Walter was became the house ghoul, and kind of was the master of the house, kept things running, and could no longer accompany Kyrian out on his missions. So Roy kind of took over from that. Roy and Kyrian have a very interesting relationship, even as student and student teacher. They have student teacher, father son, but Roy doesn't see Kyrian necessarily as a superior, which is actually more true now than it was then. He doesn't necessarily see Kyrian as a superior. Doesn't necessarily disrespect him. He respects him, but just not in the way he should. Put it that way. So they have a strained relationship. They tolerate each other. There's no animosity. There's no anger there. They equally respect each other, and that kind of happened during this whole time they traveled together. For the 180 years they traveled together. Well, I would say about 100 years they traveled together, because Roy spent 80 years kind of off doing his own thing, where he ran into Abraham, or Webby's character Abraham. So, yeah, that's how that happened. But it may have been more than that, actually. I'm trying to think. I have to look at the other document I don't have in front of me, but yeah, I can't remember. I think was it 50 years, 60 years? Anyway, Kyrian and Roy, they had very different approaches on how to handle things. Kyrion's very methodical, very, very, very patient with things, and Roy at the time, not so much. Wasn't rash, but was definitely not the slow, really, really slow burn contingency plans for your contingency plans for your contingency plans kind of person. And that's kind of what Kyrian was. But they kind of worked really well together, because Kyrian was very much the person of, if you could catch him off guard or do something he couldn't account for, that was his weakness. Because he would plan things out, and have backup plans, and have backup plans for the backup plans, and have like fail-safe plans for the, have all these different plans, and plans things down to the letter from A to Z. But if you did something that wasn't a part of one of his plans, he didn't know how he couldn't react as quick. So that's kind of where Roy would come up and be able to improvised intelligence, if you will, and make the situation work until things got back on track. So they kind of worked really well together, but they didn't really agree. So them traveling all the time didn't really work, and Carrion started doing different kind of work anyway. So it worked out where I think they parted. It was between 50 and 80 years that they worked together, and then they parted away. And then that's when Roy kind of was a ghoul who would just run errands for the house. So he did his own thing. He traveled the world, and that's where he met Abraham. Somewhere around the early 1800s.
And technically, and Roy was Kyrion's ghoul, yeah?
Yeah, he was Kyrion's ghoul.
Yeah. And
I would
then
imagine
Abraham.
on their long trips away, Abraham would keep him satiated.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was technically Kyrion's ghoul.
Chances are Abraham would keep him satiated with freshly killed Cainite blood.
I mean, either way, that's fine.
Uh,
For Roy, it makes no difference either way.
But oh, Abraham. All right. Then let's see. He was with Abraham. We've never actually really fleshed out what they did together.
No, we haven't. So, I mean, I guess at one point in time, I can tell you right now that Roy was, I can tell you right now, I can tell you exactly right now when I know when Roy was in Japan. Roy went to Japan. I know for a fact. So Roy went to Japan. This was after he met Abraham. He went to Japan and he spent about 5 or 6 years in Japan around the mid 1800s, about 1863ish. And he stayed there till about 1870. So Roy was in Japan then. So
all right,
I know that part of the time he was around there.
That would have been Abraham was in that part of the world. He might not have been in Japan proper.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's fine. I mean, they would have met before. Like I said, they would have met up around the early 1800s.
Right.
First time around. So we're
I mean, that
Abraham
actually lines up then, because I mean, Abraham probably early to late 1800s. He spent a good stint of the 1800s in Asia itself, like Japan and China.
There you go. They met in China then, or Mongolia.
Yeah.
They met in Mongolia.
At least it's not Peru.
They were both touring the Great Wall of China.
Abraham's just like, yeah, I could do better.
I can do better. And they're both just standing there. They're both holding pinwheels, looking over. A breeze blows and blows off Abraham's hat. It lands at Roy's feet. It was a meeting fated to be.
Yeah,
that's exactly how it went. Exactly how it went. And they lived happily ever after. There was no destruction. They weren't the direct cause of the fall of nations at all.
No.
Not at all. No.
I will say, after your stint in Asia, so late 1800s, really early 1900s.
Yeah, he basically hung around. He was around there around the time of the start of the Shinsengumi. He actually was a part of the Shinsengumi. Then effectively got trained from there. That lasted about 6 years, and then disbanded. I think in June, July-ish of 1869. So then after that he hung around for a bit longer, and basically at that point it was illegal to be a samurai, kind of, not really, but kind of sort of. And then that's when he kind of phased off. He was basically Tom Cruise. No, I'm kidding. In The Last Samurai. He was basically Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai. Yeah, no, I'm kidding, but kind of not really.
And what's Roy's apparent age?
Roy's apparent age is, I can tell you right here, Roy's apparent age is early 20s.
All right.
So his early 20s, met around there somewhere.
So him and Abraham actually appear to be relatively the same age.
Yeah, he's like Abraham's younger brother. Pat me in the head. Do it.
Well, I
Do
mean,
it.
Abraham's pretty young looking.
They're brothers. They're like a year apart. They're brothers.
The only thing that Abraham's got going for him is
Abraham's old ass.
He now has his goatee.
Abraham's old ass.
I mean, he is old as fuck.
His old ass. Like I feel like if he ever died, like met final death, like he wouldn't turn the dust. Like like a mountain would just form like over like from the time, like
yeah,
or like a tree would just sprout out of the ground, like super fertile.
yeah. I will say for as far as elder vampires go, Abraham, at least in my world, is one of the more adaptable elders. A lot of the elders are very set in their ways. Like you might get some elders who they won't even own a phone. They won't drive a car. They don't like technology as a whole. You know what I mean?
I don't trust these newfangled machines.
Let alone learning anything about them. So, I mean, out of all the elders, Abraham is probably the most adaptable. He understands the importance of change and needing to change with it. So, yeah, early 1900s. What happened after that? What happened right around then?
Early 1900s.
I believe it was 1905.
I wanted to check something real quick. What was the time for that? I wanted to check something. It was 1877. So yeah, that was like later in there. But I was trying to check something. Battle of Kentucky.
Oh, he's fact checking stuff, people.
Okay, that was pre me. Okay, I was curious. I was curious about that. That was pre me. That was 1600. Ray wasn't even alive. Yeah. So you said mid 1900s?
No, what happened in early 1900s?
Oh, Ray got turned into a K-Knight.
That's right. Do you remember
He
the
was
year?
in 1902.
1902.
And then he was sent on a boat.
Yep.
Literally, like, at the same time. Like, he was like, oh, you're a vampire now. Bye.
Yep, because essentially Abraham gave word to, I think he went even above Kyrian and went straight to Marcus.
He went to Marcus.
And said, listen, I've worked with this person, this ghoul. I want him turned, and I want him working for me.
True statement.
You've made an impact on Abraham. Not many people in Abraham's history has done so. So he took a shine to you. And then he very promptly put you to work.
He did. My first night in the job, I upset the hierarchy of power in a town. Booyah, I killed the bishop.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Without combat. Booyah.
Let's talk about that for a second. Because, I mean, we're rounding up on the hour mark, so we're not going to get into...
I want to hear you talk about that. Like, because you from a DM perspective.
We're going to, we're going to talk about that right now. Because like I said, we're rounding on that hour mark, so we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. We're not going to dive into every little thing that Roy's done. If you guys want to listen to these, they will be released as content on one of our feeds.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the Roy, this is, I guess, the backstory part of these. We may do one more episode and cover just the backstory to get you guys current where we are, because a lot of the files for the Roy games, they got lost. Like, just the one-on-one recordings, me and you.
Yeah.
Because we were recording, and then a couple of them got, like, 2 of them in a row got corrupted, and then I think we just stopped recording after that. So, yeah, so
we'll do an overarching
this part, but we can do an overarching kind of SU thing. If Webby's still dying next week, which I hope he's not, or if he is still dying next week, I hope he's just dead, because then he'll at least be happy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wish every day for the last 2 weeks for the sweet release from death. So Roy. Devin, I gotta say, it's not just Roy. I think it started with Roy, and then it kind of branched off into, like, a few of your other D&D characters.
I got tired of people saying, like, Devin never talks. So I'm like, fine, I'll just win everything by talking.
And he does. And now, listeners, anybody out there who plays tabletop RPGs, you're going to say, "Oh, well, that's not necessarily just Devin's fault. That's Webby's fault because he's the DM and he doesn't have to allow it." You're right, but I also want to award exceptional roleplay and exceptional rolling. And when the chips are really down and Devin's really put into a corner here, he manages to pull off really good roleplay and exceptional rolls when needed. So we had how many one-on-one sessions do you think we had over the course of the start of the
Probably, like,
Roy games to
10?
All right.
10 to 12?
Yeah, so we had like a dozen sessions. Not a single fucking combat. Roy didn't have to roll combat once.
Closest thing to a combat I had was with the younger brothers,
Yeah,
and I didn't even really fight in that.
there was a fight, and then it got ended. Essentially, the turn after Roy
Yeah,
Roy
like
said
I didn't
something.
even fight. I didn't even fight in that. Like I hopped up on a roof. It started off. I had my shotgun if I needed to start something. I hopped up on the roof. When I hopped up on the roof, I was there. One of the other brothers got up there and slashed at me, and I was going to roll my turn, but then literally, Billy went before me. He beat me at initiative, and he shot the guy on the roof and killed him on the roof.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to. So I didn't have to roll. And then after that, I just talked down Jesse and his brother and was like, yo, da 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 da. They decided to help us out. And they ended the fight.
Yeah.
And then he shot me in the stomach, and then I shot him, but that was outside of combat. That was just like a
Story arc type thing.
a story thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, no, there really was no combat rolls. Like I have yet to roll dice for a combat situation.
Yeah. Which mind boggles me sometimes. Because I think back and I'm like, oh, no, he's been in this. No, he wasn't. No, but then I put him in. No, that didn't happen either. All right.
He's for sure he rolled combat here. It's like, no, he didn't roll combat there. He did that. Damn it.
Yeah. I mean, he had to
tried
go.
Drop an elevator on me.
He had to go to England and confront my portrayal of the person, the chief inspector in charge of the Jack the Ripper cases, and he went there with Jack the Ripper, and Edquist I put in charge of playing the chief inspector for that episode. I had him on as a guest, and even Edquist shot Jack the Ripper, killed him, set his ass on fire, dead. Jack the Ripper's dead, gone. And then still talked to Devin, or talked to Roy, and managed to bargain and cut a deal with Roy. So even then, Roy managed to snake out of that whole situation without combat.
Yep. I'm going through the psychology anecdotes I wrote for Roy, because one of the apps I use that I just found again, I'm super happy about it. It's a storyboarding app, but it'll ask you to help flesh out a character. It'll ask you these questions, and it's 62 questions. And I'm reading some of these. I forgot I answered these questions like in a comical, like Hollywood Johnny Depp.
Now, does this give you like a psych profile at the end of it all?
Not exactly, but it gives you an idea of the character's mindset. Like, is he or she easygoing? It's 62 questions. It's more than that, but is he or she easygoing? I said, yes, very easygoing, but also very analytical. And while he does not hold grudges, does remember every slight that comes his way, right? And then I was like, okay, that was when I first answered. I'm like, I want to answer these in like a comical interview way. Like, it was an interviewer interviewing Roy. How would he answer these? The reason why I came with the interview approach was I think I was watching Moonlight, which is an OCW show about vampires, and it opens up with him being interviewed, and I think that's why I did it. But anyway, is he or she charming? Okay, and that's why I laughed when you were talking about me talking my way at everything. And this is what I put. I want to charm. Keep in mind, I did all this before we ever played the first session.
Right.
So it's very prophetic. I want to charm my way out of a den of rival vampires and started a war between rival vampire factions that lasted for a while. All in under 1 hour. Am I charming? You tell me. And I think back to Billy. I'm like, yeah, no, I did charm my way out of a den of rival vampires.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did technically start a rival vampire faction war that lasted for a while, all in under an hour.
So, so Roy does manage to get, and I mean, like I said, it branched off into D&D too, because your character in the Mainland Madness game that we play with my buddy Ross and Goose and Austin manages to talk between you and Ross. Okay, one of the first sessions.
Ross does it and ruins your life. I do it and ruin your characters. It's a difference.
It's a little bit both. Like, again, yes, it is my fault, but at the same time, listeners, I want to reward again the role play and the role. If that means breaking the game once in a while, sure. But one of the first sessions, Ross is. They went up against the Manticore. That was going to be their boss fight. It was their group who almost got slaughtered by magical rugs. Beat the rugs.
That was the real boss fight.
Yeah,
the rugs were the real boss.
They beat the rugs, and then they were going to face off against this Manticore. Okay, the rugs were only supposed to whittle them down a little bit, nearly wipe the party. It was insane
because I wasn't near the rugs.
Yeah.
Everybody else got wrapped in rugs.
No one wanted to get close enough to help Goose out of the rug. And Goose was just slowly suffocating every round. I was like, oh man, Goose, you're going to lose a character because no one wants to save you. So they go up against this Manticore. Ross decides he's going to try to tame it. So I leave it up to... I was like, okay. And I'm not going to lie. I looked at his character sheet and I was like, nah, his nature's not that great. Go ahead and roll a nature roll because that does make sense. And I think he had at the time he only had a +3, something like that. It wasn't super high. He fucking crit 20 the roll. I was like, you motherfucker. I wanted to start keeping a tally on how many crit 20s Ross rolls because it's insane. And then Devin, he fucking
Ross balances it out though because I feel like he goes down in every fight.
That's also a true statement. He is probably the first person I single target. I'm usually like, well, before you can tame anything, let me just knock your ass out. Don't worry.
He goes down in every fight. But
don't worry. Now you're next now.
Rolls a 20.
You're next now. Don't worry.
I have a question after you describe the scenario with me. I have a question that I want you to answer.
Okay. So Devin's character in the same D&D group has done essentially two things. He took one NPC, made him feel so terribly wrong that now he's reconsidering his life choices.
Is that the merchant?
The merchant, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who you guys essentially stole. You made him give up his stuff, and then you sent him on his way crying. And then the boss fight between the two thugs in the hallway. I wanted a nice close quarters combat, not a lot of room to move around and stuff.
I forgot about the boss fight. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was literally in a hallway where they could only really get two people wide, right? And Devin fucking charms one of them to fight for them, and then the other one dies. The charm wears off. This guy's about to run because now he sees his buddy dead and the group that he's fighting. And so I rolled a morale type check, and he wanted to run, and Devin literally stopped him, talked to him, offered him a job as a bouncer with booze, food, a roof over his head, and the ability to beat people up. I was like, this guy's a thug, why wouldn't he want to do that? And he fucking rolled really high on a charisma check, and I was like, fine, you guys have a bouncer for your inn now. It's fucking insanity.
Let me ask you this question. So between Roy and Finn. Finn? Yeah, Finn. I always get Finn and Flynn confused. I do it all the time in the game. Who fucked up somebody worse? Roy and the college drunk driving kid, or the college drunk kid that I said was drunk driving?
Oh.
Or
the merchant?
Finn and the merchant.
Well, the thing is here, folks. Devin doesn't know what happened after each of these scenes to those particular NPCs. Now, Devin, your question is which character fucked up the NPC more?
Yeah.
That's a trick question. Now, do you want to phrase it which one of your characters ruined the NPC's life more?
Yeah, sure. Feel that.
I'll say Roy did. I'll tell you right now, the drunk college kid that you said, he committed suicide. He offed himself. He could not live with the guilt of it all.
Okay.
You guys did not stick around long enough in Colorado. That made the news the next day.
I literally made someone kill themselves with the words.
Yes.
I'm okay with this.
Yes. He felt completely terrible about what he did, and yes. The merchant, however, is still alive, and
he's now a priest.
You may or may not run into him down the road.
He's now a priest. Oh, and I also randomly converted Finn. Because remember, I rolled a religion check, and like he's not particularly religious, but I talked the dude down using religion, and I was like, and then I looked over at Goose, and I was just like, because he's a paladin, I was like, did I do good? He's like, you did good. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I like to think I just have I have this bandolier of holy symbols that I just like clip onto my necklace when I need to.
Yo, which one suits this situation better? This one. Exactly. I'm feeling this one today.
I'm feeling core today. We're going in.
Oh my god, that's fucked up.
All right, I'm just gonna read you some of these that I wrote for Roy because I think they're funny. How does he or she feel most frequently? Happy or sad? I put #blessed.
Jesus.
Is he or she generous or selfish? Is he or she self-centered? I like to think of myself as generously selfish. And one cannot be at peace with himself if he's not at the center of himself or some wise shit like that. Is he or she ambitious? God. Yo, Roy, you want to be king of the world? Roy, no, I'm good, player. That's the answer I picked down for that.
All right.
Roy doesn't want to be king of the world. Nah, he has other aspirations.
That's good.
Is he or she nice or unpleasant? Is he or she funny or boring? Trick question. To my friends, I like to think I'm nice. But to my enemies, well, they're all dead, so no comment? I'm so funny, it's boring. That was the answer to the other one. Is he enthusiastic? Am I enthusiastic? I don't know. You tell me in all caps. Is he open-minded? I'm the living dead, and I'm 300 years old at this point. I can't afford not to be.
I mean, true.
True statement, yeah. Is he kind or arrogant? Both? Question mark? Is he a good listener? I'm sorry, what did you say?
Read question number 24.
24. All right, we're going down. 24, bam. Is he curious or indifferent? Can I be curiously indifferent?
That's fucked up, Devin. You're like passive-aggressively not answering these questions.
I imagine that's how it would be, though. Like, if one would be questioned, that's how it'd be. Here, 1 through 62.
55.
55. All right, we're going to 55, y'all. You're going to close out on these random questions. 55. Is he romantic? Is he a romantic? Oh, God. I wrote that in French.
Well.
I would translate it to English. French to English. To English. I wrote that in French because Roy speaks French. I wrote, your eyes I dream about day and night. That's what I wrote. And I said that in a French accent. So there we go. Pick another one, maybe.
13.
13. We're going back to the top. 13. I may have already read that one.
Oh.
No, I didn't. No, that's the physical one. My bad. That's the physical traits. Okay, this one works. Is he cheap or generous? I'm pretty generous. I give a lot to charities and whatnot, to avoid paying taxes. No comment.
So good. Again, it's passive aggressiveness. God damn it, Devin. All right, let me ask you this, Devin.
Go for it.
Do you have any questions now that you have me in a conversation about Vamp and in front of an audience where I'm more prone to probably answer? Do you have any questions about Abraham?
Well, I asked you one question. You already said yes to it. I already know what it is, and I don't know if you want people to know what it is, so I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to ask a random question. It has nothing to do with, because I don't want me to know out of character or in character in terms of like anything superly important, right?
All right.
So I'm going to ask you.
I
This
mean,
question.
I was giving you the floor to,
You
put
were.
me
I
on
mean,
a
I'm trying
spot.
to really think.
I appreciate the fact that you didn't.
Because there's other people that you may not want to know who listen to the show. So,
I don't.
but I
know.
will ask this question.
Oh, Devin, who else Cheeky listens to this show.
Rob listens to. Rob listens.
Yeah, well.
And if Rob heard something juicy, he'd make Donnie listen.
Yeah,
So,
well, maybe.
Trust me, I know how this goes. Does Abraham have the originals of the Ten Commandments?
Like the stone tablets?
Stone tablets.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Oh, man. Let's see. What else? What's Abraham's views? Was Abraham involved directly or indirectly with World War II?
Oh, the World Wars. Let me see which one World War II was. $39 to $45.
So passively aggressive.
He was indirectly involved in World War II, but he was involved.
Did he profit from it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna say yes. There's
Okay.
there's very little that Abraham invests in that he doesn't.
Is there a
profit from.
war? Is there a war that has affected humans that Abraham has directly caused, or an event, a human event that Abraham has directly caused for his own personal gain?
Yes. I mean, do I have to say which one? I mean, I answered the question technically.
You did. I'm not gonna. I will give you reporter privilege, and you don't have to expound upon if you do not want to.
Okay, I will say this, just to sink that hook in a little bit deeper. The answer to that is yes, there is an event, and yes, it was a war.
I like it. Was Abraham on Noah's Ark?
I don't think so. I don't think he's that fucking old.
Was he one of the giraffes? Was he?
Yeah.
He was just a dude in giraffe paint. Like, they don't fucking know.
Yeah, but he just painted himself up like a cow. He's just like, moo, motherfucker.
Oh, shit. Oh my god. Oh, like, I read some of these things from Roy. Like, I forgot how. I don't know what was what was my mindset like I was writing these. It's so funny though. Is he sweet and affectionate or harsh? Look, I know I ask a lot of my subordinates, but I offer dental after 90 days.
Damn it, Devin.
So Jesse has dental, so you know.
That's good. That's good. What about Billy?
Has it been 90 days since he's been woken back up? I don't know.
Oh, you're counting it from that? All right, you motherfucker.
I mean,
and yes, it has.
Okay, yeah. Oh, shit. God, these are so...
That's good, because Billy might actually need it.
I just think I have a K-Night dentist. Offers like free fang polishings every 6 months.
Right on.
Oh, fuck yeah. Now I kind of want to make a dentist who became a vampire and just runs a vampire who's fucking not fucking Dexter. What's the show about like the black market doctor? I can't think right now. He's just like the black market doctor for canines.
I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of want to make him like a salubri. He just like, oh no, he just fixes people up. Like he
I like.
literally is.
I like to
He
think
just
that he
calls
just.
in the middle of the night and just shows up like sewing people up.
I like to think that he essentially it's all a scam. Like he just scams like new vampire, like fledgling vampires, because they don't realize that like if you break a tooth, then it'll just
Grow back.
reform the next night.
Time.
So as soon as they break one, they like emergency call him, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll fix it."
He like gives him like a fake crown, and then like when they wake up the next morning, the old one fell out, the crown fell out with a new tooth in its place, and they don't know the difference.
Yeah.
It's like there you go, perfect.
And so he just makes rich profit off all these like young fucking new vampires who don't know any better.
I love it. I love it so much. For some reason, he wears one of those old school like dental mask things with like the circular metal thing on his head.
Question about Roy.
Yep.
Does he have a child?
No.
Ooh, but doesn't he?
Well, okay, yeah.
But
also no. I thought you were talking about a human child. The answer would be no for there. And if you're counting, I guess, via blood, he can't. So, yeah.
No, but I mean, he does
have a child. He has
essentially an adoptive.
He has an adoptive child, which he loves like his own. Although he would not trust him with running a city.
Yeah, you left that in. Yeah, how do you think Bones feels about that? By the way,
don't worry about that. Like literally,
Bones is your child, and you left.
Don't
Jesse
worry about it.
From
this point forward, if Roy has to do anything and he's going to be gone for a while, and he doesn't need his ghoul, is going straight to her.
Oh, all right.
Jesse's still the right hand man. He's still got stuff going on. Jesse's the right hand man. I've known Jesse longer than I've known Bones.
Yeah, but Bones is your child.
He is. Bones is also a little bit special.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's on par with Billy, probably.
Especially those two together. Those two together, man.
So, but we are rounding up that hour and 22 mark, Devin, and there's a lot of coughing going on in the background here because me and my dad are both sick, and I think we're both dying. So. But we will wrap up this episode. Thank you for talking about Azariah and Roy. Hopefully, maybe if the listeners found any of these characters or characteristics intriguing, or you want to hear more about this Vampire the Masquerade game, we are going to be releasing some of them. And the Brood, I believe, partially has already been released. I don't know anymore. But, yeah. Closing thoughts, Devin?
Sup?
I mean that's more of an opening thought than a closing one, but
all right.
You know.
Remember, everybody, love makes the world go round. Do unto others as you want done to yourself, and go out there and create something amazing.
Yeah. Now, where can people find you on the internet?
You guys can find me on Twitter at DMP_Pookie, and on Twitch at PooKilledMe, and on eBay at Broman5.
You guys can find me on Twitter. I don't know which one's Twitter. That's the bird. Okay, you can find me on Twitter at JacksForestWalker, all one word. On Twitch at DM Webby. On other things everywhere. Instagram. And on eBay, looking for Devin. Until next time, fuck Booster Gold, folks.
Fuck Booster Gold.
No, really, I fucking hate Booster Gold, though. Seriously. Fucking asshat.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Oh, Devin. Hey, Devin.
Yeah.
It may or may not have been the Civil War. Just throwing that out there.